Hi everyone. So this is my YouTube review of the Vipassana meditation technique. I recently attended a 10-day residential course, and this video is a review of what my personal opinion is about that course. Before I start, how I would do is I have segmented this in three different categories. The first part, in the first few minutes, I'll cover about what exactly is Vipassana, and how it originated. Then the second part I'll go is about the structure, what happens normally on a typical day. You start off at half 4 and you sleep at 9:30. So what happens in a typical day? And the third part I will cover basically my personal opinion and view. What do you learn? How does it benefit you from a scientific perspective? Now we are living in a very modern world. We are scientific people. So my view of how it benefits. That's like the third part. So before I start now, a lot of people actually call it Vipassana. Now that's because how it's written down in English, but it's actually pronounced as Vipassana. Now people in India or the original Pali script pronounce it as Vipassana, and that's how it is actually pronounced as. So what is this technique? So this is a very ancient technique that was actually practiced by Lord Buddha himself and taught to his disciples in India many years before Christ. And this has been passed down through several generations from teachers to their students, from those students to their another students. It has been handed down generation to generation, and it has been preserved in its original form. And this is what the technique. Now, India is a very ancient land, one of the oldest civilizations in the world, and they have been made various other meditation techniques as well. So this is not the only technique, but this is one of the techniques that has survived. And I personally believe that if anything is fake or doesn't work, it wouldn't survive so many centuries, given the fact that this has been sustained for so many generations. There is a definite benefit to this. So Vipassana is actually something that deals with, it's a meditation technique. It is not anything to do with rhythmic breathing or controlling your breath. It's actually about self-observation. Observing what? So it's basically observing your body and observing your mind. Now, mind is a kind of, so there's two things that come to you, come to your thought when you think of the word mind. There's a conscious mind and there's subconscious mind. So Vipassana also helps you observe your subconscious mind. You go deep inside the mind and unravel it. So that's one of the things that Vipassana helps you. The ultimate aim or the ultimate objective is to reach a state of nirvana, but it requires a lot of practice and a lot of effort. But the whole idea is, I believe it helps you concentrate your mind, helps you sharpen your mind, and it's a technique of self-observation. One of the very basic thing that it also teaches you is love and compassion towards all. Now, when you attend the course, you'll hear the word Bhavatu Sabba Mangalam many times, which basically means may all beings be happy, or may everyone in the world be happy. And that's a fundamental crux of what the teaching is. Now, it also helps you dissolve your ego, helps you get rid of hatred. Now, I know people in the world there who have vengeance, hatred, ego. If you're one of those types, I would very particularly recommend you go on this course because it helps you realize that the problem is not with others, the problem is actually within you. I've seen people in this world who will say, my life is miserable because of this person, and they spend all their life thinking of destroying the other person or having vengeance. Now, this course will actually teach you that it's not the other person, it's everything is within you. It is about observing things as they are, having no clinging or attachments towards anything, neither having aversion to anything. It's maintaining a state of equanimity. That's what is the fundamental principle of Vipassana. So, what happens on a typical course? So, when you go to a course, you will see there's new students and there's old students. Irrespective of who you are, your schedule remains the same. A typical day starts at 4:30 in the morning and it ends at 9:30 in the night. So if you start up at 4:30, you're usually woken up at 4 in the morning and you start your meditation at 4:30. Now, from 4:30 to 6:30 you will normally meditate. There's a breakfast at 6 o'clock, 6:30, sorry, and then there's some periods of rest in between as well. So it's not like you'll be meditating all the time. During a day, you have group meditation thrice a day. One at one at 8 o'clock in the morning. There's one at 2:30, and there's one at 6 o'clock. So you have three group sittings. Apart from that, you have time after lunch for resting. You have time usually in the afternoon where you can have private interview with the teacher to ask any specific questions about the technique or even anything else. There's a video discourse by Goenka ji at 7 in the evening. I particularly like those discourses a lot. Uh, they are thoroughly thought provoking. They help you understand a lot of things. Uh, Apart from that, there's a lot of time where you get time to meditate by yourself within your hall or your cell, or you can go and meditate in the hall. I particularly found meditating in the hall more useful when there's no group, when at times other than the group meditation. Simply because when I was in the room, I was finding there's a lot of disturbances, people going in and out, closing the doors, go taking their stuff out of the bags. So I would recommend if you really want to be very serious, actually sit down in the meditation hall and meditate over there. That's my personal suggestion. Uh, all now it's written on the website and everybody says it's a 10-day course, but actually it's not a 10-day course. You're there for actually 12 days. The first day is actually called as day zero, and then there's 1 to 10 days, and there's a last day which is actually a metta day. Metta actually means friendship or happiness. That's what the meaning of the word metta is. That's what I will say as a day 11. So day 11, day 0, and 1 to 10. So it's actually 12 days. But the first day of day 0, it actually starts at 7 in the evening, while day 11 ends at 7:30 or 8 o'clock in the morning. And in between the first 3.5 days is what you learn a technical anapanasati, which is focusing on your breath. And from 3.5 days to the day 10th is what you actually learn the technical vipassana. Now, the first 3 days is, I think, necessary to help concentrate your mind. Now, I know when I went for the first day, it was very difficult for me to even sit comfortably for more than 15 minutes. When you start focusing on your breath, you start realizing your mind is wanders all the time. Within 5 minutes, you start thinking or daydreaming about something else. But on day third, I realized I could focus much more longer. I was able to do it in 15 minutes interval. And this focus of mind is required to be trained or to practice Vipassana, and that is why it is useful. Now, there are on every time you maintain an act of what is called as noble silence, which means silence of mind, silence of speech. You're not allowed to speak to fellow students or to anyone else. You're not even allowed to have eye contact with anyone else. That's what is the basic principle. Now, at the beginning, it sounds very difficult, but I particularly did not find it to be very difficult. I found it very easy to be not able to speak to anyone. That was not difficult for me. Apart from that, the food that is being served is pure vegetarian food. You don't eat any meat, or no, it's not non-vegetarian food. You're supposed to. There's no. You're supposed to be restraining from alcohol. You basically, essentially, this forms part of the 5 precepts that you take before joining the course. And the idea of this is to live the life of a monk, and it's an act of renunciation. So you live on the charity of others and you don't talk to others. So it's living the life in the true sense as how you were living in the times of Buddha, to basically understand the basic principle of Vipassana. Now, during the group sittings, you would normally practice, it's all where the discourses and all the instructions are given by audio. So you practice as per the audio instructions are given to you and you practice. So you keep progressing on every single day. The final objective, or if you reach a state, is there a state called bhanga in which you realize your whole body doesn't exist. You don't feel any solidity in your body. You feel your body is completely a vacuum. That's is what the ultimate state is. So there are people whom I spoke to who were able to achieve that state. There are people I've also felt who felt nothing at all. And there are people who felt something on the upper half of the body or in the lower half of the body or only on the limbs. So it depends how on your personal capacity, how sharp your mind is, how better you're able to feel, how much you believe into certain things. But I would definitely suggest that it's like me saying a lot of things to you. It's like me. It's more easier for you to actually go and try. I would recommend go and try it. If you like it, practice it. If you do not like it, that's fine. You at least tried it. Now, my personal thoughts on what I think. Now, it's a technique which initially everybody I think will find very difficult. We go, people, especially people in the modern world where we are on our smartphones, on internet all the time. We are working in a very stressful job. So it's very difficult to leave everything aside and be in what it's like a complete, it's like a, you know, you're secluded from the whole world. It's quite difficult initially, but I think within a day or two you get used to it. And like and what I spoke to everybody else, you actually start enjoying that. I actually like that. In fact, when the course ended, I did not even felt like turning my phone on for a day. In fact, I felt like the 80s or the 90s when your life was I think, much more enriching without technology. You're constantly bombarded by everything in the world, and you realize you don't have time to yourself. You're constantly looking outside. But these 10 days actually give you time to look at yourself, which you don't get in your busy lives, which I think is particularly enriching, and it helps you realize a lot of things which otherwise you would not realize. It also brings a lot of thoughts, in fact, a lot of memories. You go on a memory journey, and it's not me, but as when I spoke to a lot of other people who had done Vipassana many times, they had a similar experience. You Thoughts which were deeply embedded in your mind for several years or several decades start surfacing out, and in very much detail, and I think that's because you get time for yourself. I did not find not speaking to be very difficult. In fact, personally, I found getting up at 4:30 in the morning to be very difficult. That was personally for me. Again, the other thing is there's no dinner, so the last meal you actually have is 11 in the morning. That's your lunch. So from 11 in the morning till you sleep at 9:30, you don't eat any food. I'm just joking. Actually, you get something at 5, you get two fruits, but that is only if you're a new student. If you're an old student, then you actually don't have anything after 11. It sounds very difficult if you have a habit of eating a snack in the evening or a proper meal in the evening. But given the fact that you don't burn your calories or you don't exercise, you're just sitting and meditating, your body is conserving that energy and you don't lose energy. So it's not that difficult as it sounds like. So that is one thing. Uh, what I would say, there's things which some people might find does not fit within the scientific rationale. I wouldn't want to go into specific details, and that so but I will still say you can leave the bits aside which you do not believe in and take the bits which you believe. It's not religious. It's nothing to do with any particular sect, god, or religion. It's a meditation technique that focuses on your mind and your body. So there's nothing religious aspects associated with it. But bear in mind this: there are things that were taught 2500 centuries ago. So some of those things might not be in sync with what your belief of the world, and that's why I said you can leave or filter them aside and give a fair trial to the practice, give a fair trial to the technique. And I would highly recommend that you do this technique and have a principle of love towards all, of principles of compassion towards all, and the principle of metta bhavana, or may all beings be happy. And I hope to read in my comments that you actually went to the course, you came back, and you actually had the benefit. Wish you very good luck. Thank you.